What's going on, everyone? Darkside Phil here, and welcome to episode 27 of Ask the King. Boom, starting my timer right now for the first part. The series where I answer your questions, whether you submit them on the kingofhate.com forums, whether you submit them via my Twitter, @TheyCallMeDSP, or whether you submit them via my Facebook page as well, which is They Call Me DSP. Alright, so we got a lot of questions to answer, a lot of things to address. I do want to apologize. I do have the fan on in my room because it is a very hot day here in Connecticut, so you're going to hear the ambient noise of the fan. I did turn off the air conditioner so that wouldn't turn on and be loud during the video. But without further ado, lots of questions. I mean, look at this. Lots of questions, 3 pages, and some of them are really good, so let's jump right into them. First question. Phil, do you ever watch content from other machinima and or gaming directors such as The Creatures? Do you ever borrow some ideas and take advice from other directors in your videos, or is all of the content on your channel completely unique and original? And do you ever plan on doing cooperative playthroughs with other well-known machinima directors, maybe in like a special, in the future? That's from Combat Kid 456. Here's the bottom line. I've said this many times before, but it's worth every once in a while reiterating. The fact that I put out so many videos, the fact that I play almost every major release, that I have regular series like Ask the King, the Week in Preview, that I travel and go on trips and go to gaming conventions and I have coverage of that kind of stuff for you guys, keeps me busy to the point where I really just don't have time to watch other people's content. And I'll be completely honest with everyone, since I started uploading to YouTube back in 2008, I just don't watch videos on YouTube. I really don't. You know, I don't go around watching videos on YouTube, and I actually kind of get some shit for that from my girlfriend, Panda Lee, because she's been doing playthroughs on her channel, Panda Lee Games, and she's wanted me to watch them, you know, to see how she's doing it. And I'm like, I do try to watch some of her stuff when I can, but I just don't even have time to keep up on her stuff. I mean, let's face it, she just played LA Noire, which is an extremely long game, and also Heavy Rain. That's nearly 200 videos right there that I would have had to watch. So I just don't have time to follow other people on YouTube. You know, I know a lot of people like, wow, you know, they don't even watch TV. They go straight to YouTube, and this is what they do every day. That's never really been me. And you know, this guy specifically calls out The Creatures. I don't even know who The Creatures are. All I know is I think that SSOH PKC is part of it. I don't know. I guess it's a bunch of gamers who live in a house and post videos on YouTube. I have no idea really who they all are or what their stuff is. He asks, are my ideas original, or do I take advice from other directors and do I borrow stuff? No, it's completely original because I don't watch other people's stuff. I wouldn't be able to copy anyone because I don't watch their stuff, and that's why it's funny when every once in a while someone accuses me, oh, you got that idea from so-and-so, and you got that idea from this and that. I don't watch other people's content, so there's no possible way I could have gotten that idea from someone else. And the last question here was, do I plan on doing any cooperative playthroughs with other well-known machinima directors? Well, here's the thing. Number one, they would want to have to do a playthrough with someone else. Number two, I would need to know who the hell they are. And number three, I would need to have a means to contact them and plan stuff out. Like, for example, Borderlands 2 is coming up in a couple weeks here. Would people like to see me do a playthrough, a co-op playthrough with SSOH PKC and 2 or 3 other machinima directors? Maybe, but I don't know how to get that coordinated. I don't even know if it's feasible. A few months ago, I was actually contacted by Machinima because I was told I was one of their top 25 partnered channels, and they basically have this new program that they kind of have an initiative with where they're trying to get more interactivity with the channels, give us better direct lines of contact to Machinima. But also one of the projects that they said they're going to be working on is finding a way to have Machinima partners intermingle. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of that outside of having the opportunity to go out to E3 and meet a few of them at the Hawken event that they had there. In fact, they're having a Machinima partner event out in LA, but it's only for people who live in LA. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really help me. You know, it's hard for me to network and know who I'm working with when there's really literally no opportunities to do so. So no, as of right now, I have no plans to work with other people or do co-op with other Machinima partners. I've never really been contacted by anyone and said, hey, you want to do a co-op playthrough or anything like that. So if anything like that ever happened, I would definitely let people know and see if there were interest, but unless it happens, it's, you know, unless someone contacts me, it's not going to happen. And like I said, I'm too busy to be watching other people's YouTube videos, and therefore I don't know who these people are. And I know it sounds like kind of an ignorant answer, but it really is. I really am ignorant when it comes to that kind of thing. I'm so hyper focused on what I'm working on that really the stuff outside, you know, of me around the other people who do what I'm doing, I'm not aware of them. That's just the way stuff is. Next question. What particular music piece in a video game before the year 2000 stirred your emotions the most? What did you find moving about that piece and why? And that's from The Lemon. I thought about this for a while, and I actually came to a conclusion. Sorry, I'm just checking on the time here. I came to a conclusion that that basically the one piece that to me really kind of emotionally stirs me, even to this day, is the theme from the Final Fantasy games. I think it started with Final Fantasy IV and continued through 5 through 6. I think it was present at the end of 7, but I'm not 100% on that. I could be wrong. I'm talking the classic Final Fantasy scene goes dun 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 dun. You know, and I'm not going to sing the whole fucking thing, but that theme started in Final Fantasy IV and was actually the main theme of the game, and then ended up going at the end of the game after you beat it, when there's a resolution and everything, it plays then, and then it actually was at the end of Final Fantasy VI, and it was, I believe it was at the end of Final Fantasy V as well, so it was kind of like a running theme through those SNES era Final Fantasy games, and it was one of the things that actually tied the games together, was that it had common music. And even today when I hear it, it kind of has like a regal sound to it, but it's also like a happiness, a resolution. You know that you've beaten the game and that you've done some great accomplishment, and that, you know, whatever you've done in the game, everyone's now at peace, and it's kind of a happy ending. And I really think that a lot of the music that Nobuo and Uematsu, I think that's how you pronounce the name, Nobuo Uematsu, forgive me, I have no idea, I'm probably butchering it, but some of the music that he made for those games was just, it defies like time and generations. Like when you listen to it, you're like, wow, it just sounds so beautiful. And that's why when I go to MagFest and when I go to these things and I get the opportunity to listen to his music, like when he performed with the Earthbound Papas at MagFest, that was fucking great. I had such a blast experiencing that in person, and I just love that music of that time. Okay? Next question. Hi Phil, as you know, when you do this Ask the King episode, there will be many fans of yours who will be back in school, who will be approaching that time. It's absolutely true. I sometimes feel that I'm lazy when it comes to school. I end up playing video games for hours, and then I wind up doing all my assignments last minute. So my question is, what advice do you have for procrastinators like myself? And that question is from Game Shredder V1. Well, Game Shredder V1, I'll answer you tomorrow. Next question. Personally, I really enjoyed your Xenoblade Chronicles playthrough. Heck, it was what got me to buy the damn thing. After I finished the game, I was surprised that the playthrough was never finished and ended on a premature note. Though I do understand it wasn't the most viewed series that you've done. I really hope you go back to finish the playthrough, because in my opinion, the game puts the newer Final Fantasies to shame, and it brought real evolution to the JRPG genre through its unique storytelling and gameplay. Anyways, my question is, since you made money based off of the number of views that you get on your playthroughs, excuse me, has that dictated and become a deciding factor on what games you play these days? And that's from Zerdos. Yes and no. And I've explained this before, but it's, again, there's certain issues that I really do feel are worth addressing every once in a while. What happened with Xenoblade Chronicles was a combination of things. The fact that it was a longer JRPG, the fact that the game was starting to get repetitive, especially in the combat, it was getting very repetitive, and the combat was ending up to be the majority of the gameplay of the game. And also the fact that, yeah, there were not many people were watching it. In fact, near the end of the playthrough, even after like 2 days, not even 1,000 views on each video. Like, people were like, we just don't want to see this game. People were literally on Twitter, on Facebook, they were sending me direct messages. We don't want to see any more Xenoblade Chronicles. We would rather have you play any other game under the sun than Xenoblade Chronicles. Okay, this is what the feedback I was getting. They were just saying, it's not you, the game is boring. The gameplay in the game is boring. If we could watch a playthrough of just the story of Xenoblade Chronicles, maybe then we'd like it. But the fact that there's endless hours of this grinding competitive combat between everything, it's boring as hell. And that was the feedback I was getting. And I have to admit that after a certain point of playing the game, I was getting bored of it. Let me put it to you this way. When I cut off the playthrough and I decided not to continue it, that day, literally, there was like a 20 fucking minute cutscene, okay? 20 minutes without a break, where I was unable to stop the video, I was unable to save, my memory card was running out of space. And I was like, man, this is fucking annoying. I can't even pause the game to stop this cutscene, and so I can, you know, put in another memory card and continue it. And at that point, I said, well, it seems like I'm finally reaching the end game of this game, which is cool. Let's find out. And so I went to my forums and I asked everyone, gee, it looks like we're finally getting to the climax in the game and the game might be picking up. And to which I got a response, no, Phil, you just hit the halfway point in the game. Now, at this point, I had over 100 videos. And I was like, how much gameplay could they possibly expect me to sink into this game? And I mean the game developers. Like, you have to understand when you make a video game that there's a balance, that the person who you're making the game for has limited time to play the game. And when I want to hear a story, I want to have a story that's well-paced, a story that is keeping me excited and hooking me to the game to the point where I want to keep playing the game. There were dungeons in Xenoblade Chronicles that lasted 2 hours and you were in one fucking room. That's unacceptable. That's like, we're just going to bloat our game with repetitive gameplay just to say that the game is longer. And that is unacceptable. I'll be honest, there were 2 or 3 dungeons I hated in that game. But I was like, well, maybe the story, you know, will pick up and it'll keep me hooked. And in some ways it was. After maybe, you know, a couple, 2 to 3 hours of repetitive gameplay, finally there'd be a snippet of story and I'd be excited. The bottom line is this. Although, yes, what I'm doing on YouTube ultimately results in me getting paid and it's my livelihood, I'm also in the business of doing playthroughs and entertaining my audience. If what I'm doing isn't entertaining anybody, then I don't want to do it. And the overwhelming feedback I was getting during Xenoblade Chronicles was, we gave it a chance, we watched the beginning, the game's now too long and repetitive, we don't want to watch it, we're bored, play something else. Now, there are going to be times when I'm going to do what I want to do. And perfect examples of that was, I actually did go and play Final Fantasy VI this year during downtime. I did do a digital pictures week where I played all of the full motion video digital pictures games that came out during the 1990s. And I kind of put my foot down and said, even though I know the views may not be great on these are things that I want to do. And I do feel that the people who do watch it will be entertained if they give it a chance. And I fully understand that that's not the majority of my audience. There was a small grouping of my audience who watched Final Fantasy VI, who watched the digital picture stuff, and who gave me feedback and said, Phil, we watched it and we actually like it. But I understand that a lot of my audience are people who only come to watch new games, okay? And so, I really feel that this year, unfortunately, suffered greatly because these game publishers really just fucking screwed the pooch and they botched the release of JRPGs. You cannot have a year, you cannot do this, where you have like 7 major JRPGs that are all released in 1 year, okay? You can't have Final Fantasy 13-2, Xenoblade Chronicles, The Last Story, Tales of Grace's F, Kingdoms of Amalur, and yeah, I know that's not technically a JRPG, but it's still a longish RPG. Game of Thrones, I'm trying to think, I know there's a bunch I skipped. There's like 2 or 3 that were also released that I just blatantly skipped them, didn't even mention them to anybody. But literally this year, like, why the fuck would all these stupid publishers decide to release the games at the same fucking time? They all were released within like the same 4 to 5 month period. And it's like, even if you wanted to, you couldn't have played all those fucking games. They're too long. It's just like, it boggles the mind. And I was talking to the store manager of GameStop the other day about this. Because I didn't pick up Last Story. I had reserved it, but I didn't pick it up. And she says, oh, why aren't you getting it? And I explained. I said, I don't understand. Wasn't it 3 or 4 years ago when you had this year with 100 JRPGs? You had, in no particular order, Blue Dragon, The Last Remnant, Infinite Undiscovery, Lost Odyssey, and I think there were 1 or 2 more. So, in 1 year, you're releasing fucking 7 JRPGs. And then, 3 to 4 years of dead time when everyone's like, man, I really wish there could be a JRPG coming out. And then look what happened. Final Fantasy 13 came out and got all the attention because there was nothing else out at the time, even though a lot of people didn't like Final Fantasy 13. And then another drought, and then all of a sudden this year, 100 JRPGs. These publishers need to fucking open up their eyes and realize that they're not in a tunnel vision world. They have to see what else is going on around them. If 3 of your major competitors are going to be releasing their major JRPGs within this certain window, maybe you should wait. You know what I mean? Or maybe you should release your game earlier. It just doesn't make any fucking sense. Some of these games, like The Last Story, that game's been out in fucking Europe for like a year. Why the fuck did it take so long for it to come out here? It makes no fucking sense. So, I don't know. Yes, of course, there's always a financial consideration with what I'm doing. Yes, every once in a while, if I have like a ridiculous pattern of low views on my videos, does it start to draw up a little bit of concern? Of course, anyone who gets their source of income from what they're doing and they see that the performance is low is going to have a little bit of concern. But it's not the primary reason why I'm quitting certain games. It's either the game's so awful I can't continue with it, in some cases I did that this year, but also just the fact that the game's too fucking long and I'm not enjoying it anymore. If I'm not enjoying it anymore, you're not going to be entertained by the gameplay. And in the case of Xenoblade Chronicles, that was the case. In the case of games like Tales of Grace's F, The Last Story, this is the case. I just don't want to play a JRPG right now. I'm after Final Fantasy 13-2 and then Xenoblade Chronicles, I'm JRPG'd out. And I really think that if these games want to succeed in more of an audience outside of just Japan, they're going to have to find a way to keep the gamer hooked and not do repetitive shit repeatedly over and over and over. And that's really what it boils down to when it comes to these games. I just read like 2 or 3 reviews for The Last Story, and literally it says, this game is boring. It's the same fucking cliched bullshit. The story's boring. The characters all are just one personality trait. They're one-dimensional. The combat is repetitive. It's a fucking JRPG. They still haven't found a way to break the mold. So, until they break the mold and they find a way to hook everyone, I don't think that I'm going to be doing a full JRPG for quite some time. Let's put it that way. Okay, next question. I know I went on too long with that question. Ugh. Actually, I'm going to turn down the fan. This fan sounds like it's getting really loud, and it's really annoying me. I'll read the next question while I do this. The next question is... There we go. The next question is... Have you ever considered, or have you ever been requested to be a guest on Painkiller Already, the gaming podcast which is hosted by Woody's Gamertag and Wings of Redemption? And that's from the Infected Hunter. Again, I've said this many times before, and I'll say it again. I'm too busy with my own stuff to even know that that show exists, okay? Now, I'm sure it's popular, you know what I mean? I know those guys get big views. If they wanted me on the show, would I do it? Absolutely, but I haven't been asked. I'm not the kind of person that I'm going to go out and shamelessly self-promote myself to the fucking world. You won't see me spamming videos on gaming websites. You won't see me going on other people's channels and talking about myself. That's not who I am. In fact, I find that highly fucking annoying. I've always been the kind of person that believed that if you do enough hard work and if you're entertaining enough, people will find your stuff and you'll become well known just outside of that. And in a sense, I believe that's true. Take a look at my following. I have 190 million views on this DSPGaming channel within I guess April, May, June, July, so two and a quarter years. 190 million views in 2.25 years, okay? That's more than some people who have had channels open for 6 years and are considered major YouTubers have for views. That's more than most people who have double my amount of subs have, okay? But the bottom line is, I get views. And so, I consider myself successful. Whether or not I'm on the main page of YouTube every day or whatever, I consider myself successful. So I'm going to stick to my formula and keep doing what I'm doing. I mean, if they wanted me to be on the show, Painkiller Already, and talk about YouTube and stuff, why not? By the way, that question's from the Infected Hunter. I don't know if I said that or not. But I've never been asked, and that's the bottom line. Okay? Next question, from Ace Diamond. He's got some questions regarding Project 7, so let's go through them. First question is, how many days of filming go into an episode? The answer is 1. we don't have time to do more than 1 day of editing. Like I said, it's hard enough for us to even coordinate our schedules that we're all available on the same days. Now, my schedule usually is a little bit more flexible, except for the fact that one weekend every month I spend time with Panda Lee. John Rambo has to drive from New York to Connecticut. That's a hassle. OJ has to drive from one area of Connecticut to another. That's a hassle. Howard has a full-time job and work schedule. We have to work around his schedule, and his schedule actually has changed frequently over the past year. We had to adjust for that. And of course, then you have Respect to the Pact, who's doing this, and this isn't their job. This is them, once again, working around their work schedules and trying to film. So realistically, we've never had more than 1 day to film an episode. So we have to get all the footage in 1 day. Is it a rushed kind of atmosphere? Yeah, a lot of the times it is. But I think we've done a damn good job with what we've done so far. Next question. How many takes are done of an individual scene? Well, that's a funny question. It varies. Some scenes can be done in one shot. Some scenes, unfortunately, we're trying to get the right angle. We're trying to figure out what's going to work the best. And especially if it's an effect shot where we know there's going to be some effect going on, like maybe there's something behind us that's not really in the shot or whatever, you got to take multiple shots. So a lot of the times we end up doing the same scene 2 or 3 times just from different angles, so that the guys can get a close-up shot, a far-away shot, a side shot, and then when they're editing, they can determine which shot is the best to use for the series. Who does the writing? Is it a collaborative process, and how long does it take? Absolutely, it's a collaborative process. And what I would say is, we're always writing for Project 7, which, I mean, every once in a while we'll just get good ideas. We already pretty much have the entire premise of Episode 5 done. We know what jokes and what segments we want to do. We just have to sit down and piece it together and make it work into one contiguous episode that makes sense and that flows, and it's not just, you know, disjointed scenes here and there, that it all makes sense and it's a story that goes from start to finish. It is a collaborative process. What we do when we actually finally sit down to write the episode is myself, John Rambo, and Howard get into a room, whether it's my living room, whether it's Howard's living room, and we take these giant pieces of paper and we actually do storyboarding. All right, scene 1, here it is. Who's in it? Who's going to say what? Scene 2, who's in it? You know, what's going to say what? And we storyboard out the entire episode, and we all contribute. It's not like one person dominates anything. We all contribute our different ideas. And for how long it takes, I think we've written an episode in as short as 2 hours, and maybe took as long as 5 hours once to get through the writing. So it all varies. Keep in mind, the way we like to do the series is it is kind of on the fly, meaning even though we have a rough outline of what we want to do with it, it could change. And we've had many times when we came up with ideas or improv something that ended up being really funny compared to what we originally had planned. So that's the kind of way that we like to do it. And the last question, how many hours of editing are done by Respect to the Pact? Well, what you have to realize is not only does Respect to the Pact edit, meaning they take all the shots and the scenes that they did and they put them together so that they all make sense chronologically, that they look the best, but also then they have to put in all the effects. So not only do you have to get all the filming edited into one episode, but then you have to have effects built around it. So you've really got 2 completely separate jobs that they do there with the filming. And I couldn't tell you because I don't do it. What I can tell you is, for episode 4, quite literally, I believe it was like ridiculous amount of time that they did that last minute trying to get it done. And I would say that probably it has to be over 20 hours, if not even far more than that. But that's just me speaking, you know, from what I know from how long they were working on it to get it ready for the last episode. Okay. Next question. A kid in Ohio was hospitalized because of severe dehydration while playing Modern Warfare 3 for 4 days straight, only leaving to grab snacks to take a shower. What's your view on this? And that's from Con264. My view is that he's a complete fucking asshole. His parents should have told him he can't do that. I don't know how he was left alone to do this and be so irresponsible. If you're that fucking stupid, there's this thing called natural selection. I'll leave it at that. I think I've got time for one more question. Hi Phil, I know that you've talked about Kickstarter projects in the past. Have you heard about the Cheetahmen II controversy involving Mike Matei and the Angry Video Game Nerd? I personally think it's a huge scam and I want to know your opinion on it. Thanks. And that's from the Bagel One. I had not heard about this until he left this comment, and then I did a quick bit of research. Here's what happened, and here's my take on it real quick, because no need to go into major detail about it. Basically, a while back, the Angry Video Game Nerd did a game review on a game called Action 52, which was a game on the Nintendo Entertainment System that actually had, supposedly, had 52 full video games in one. And because of that, they tried to sell it for like some astronomical price tag at the time. The bottom line was the game was horrendous. Most of the 52 games were repetitive and clones of each other, or clones of other existing games, and they ran horribly and it was a piece of shit. So the game itself was kind of a scam. But there was one game inside of it called Cheetahmen that apparently was like a side-scrolling action game and wasn't that bad. It was like the only game out of the entire 52 that was worth kind of giving a chance. And later on, a sequel was made, an unofficial sequel, that apparently wasn't licensed or whatever, and it had a bugged stage that you could never beat. Like, you would get stuck because the game, for whatever reason, there was a game bug that didn't trigger what was supposed to happen, and you could never beat the stage. Now, apparently what's happened is there was some Kickstarter that was started up by some guy, I don't know the full story, but he said he wanted to remake Cheetahmen II. He wanted to actually develop Cheetahmen II using the original code, but fixing it so that you could get past that stage, fixing other game bugs, and basically making it a viable release that people could buy for the NES. And so he started up a Kickstarter project with a goal of $65,000. Subsequently, I guess either the AVGN or Mike Matei got involved with this guy and made a video promoting this Kickstarter on their YouTube channel, which is a huge YouTube channel, by the way. Well, now there's all this controversy because apparently it's been discovered that, like, it doesn't take a lot of money to do like a homebrew style redevelopment of an NES game. In fact, some professionals have even said they've been involved with projects like this before, and the most it could possibly even take is maybe 20 grand. So this guy either has absolutely no idea what he's doing, or it's a scam, asking for $65,000 to be raised. And now there's all this controversy because the Angry Video Game Nerd made a promotional video about this Kickstarter, and it makes him look bad because he's involved with a guy that obviously either is completely unprofessional or is literally just trying to get money he doesn't need to do this project. To make matters worse, the Angry Video Game Nerd actually did an Indiegogo, which is another version of Kickstarter, a couple, or not, I don't know how long it ran, I think it's been over a year, but to make his own movie. He wanted to make a movie of the Angry Video Game Nerd, but he wanted to get all the money as a startup, you know, from his fans, and he did this, and I've already voiced my opinions on this, that I don't support something like that, but he did it and got way more money than his goal was to make the movie. And he's never made it transparent what he did with that money. He's never said, well, I got this much extra money, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spend it on this and this and this. Nobody knows where the money went. And so now people are saying, wow, so he made a lot of money, and now he's helping other people make money, and it's ridiculous. Like, it's not, is this really the spirit of what these websites and things are supposed to be, just to make extra money? So there's this big controversy. It finally came out, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to make this real quick. It finally came out that Mike Matei, who is the best friend of the Angry Video Game Nerd, said that he realized that this probably is a scam, but unfortunately there was some agreement that they made that they can't take down the promotional video. Maybe they signed a contract with this guy, that he paid them a certain amount of money or something, and now they can't take it down. So there's nothing they can do, but they've disabled comments on that video. What I have to say is this. In business, you have to be sure of what you're doing at all times. I'll be honest, there are people who've asked me to promote things for them. There are people who say, oh, I have a cause, a non-for-profit cause that I want you to promote. And I've never done it. You never see me come out and start promoting things like that. You never see me promote a project. You never see me promote an Indiegogo or Kickstarter or even a non-for-profit. And the reason is this. You have to be 100% careful with this kind of stuff because it can ruin your reputation. And if I were to come out and say, I support this cause, what about the 100,000 other causes that are also just as worthy and I didn't dedicate myself to it? So if I'm ever going to dedicate myself to a project, to a cause, I want to make sure that there's a reason. Maybe there's an investment for me, an emotional investment or a personal investment, and that's why I'm becoming attached to it. In this case, would I have taken a paycheck to advertise Cheetahmen II's Kickstarter? Absolutely not. That's fucking dumb. And there are lots of things that I've come out and said, I think that people are taking paychecks now left and right just because they can and the money's there and all they see is green and they don't really understand the extent of what they're doing. I realize that my image and my word are valuable and therefore you won't ever see me come out and support something that I really don't support. That's why you don't see me constantly doing it. I do get contacted by people to do stuff and promote stuff and I really kind of ignore it. I'd rather focus on making entertaining content and not being a figurehead trying to advertise to you all the time. Okay? Alright, so that being said, that's it for part 1 of Ask the King. I'll come back. I've got plenty more questions to get to, so stay tuned. I'll be right back with part 2.